Imagine wandering through a neighborhood where every house tells a story. Octagonal wonders with wraparound porches, fairy tale-like Tudors peeking through old oaks, and colorful Queen Anne's teeming with ornate charm. Today, we're dusting off the blueprints of history and stepping inside 10 American home styles that once captured the nation's imagination but have since slipped into the background. Some, like the airy Octagon House, were hailed as architectural revolutions, while others, such as the sleek Atomic Ranch, promised a futuristic way of living. From the practical American Foursquare to the industrial elegance of Lustron steel-clad walls, these homes are more than just structures. They're time capsules reflecting the dreams, needs, and bold experimentation of their eras. As we rediscover these gems, you might find yourself longing for a gambrel-roofed Dutch Colonial or envisioning the cozy, handcrafted ambience of a Craftsman bungalow. Stick around as we unlock the secrets behind these forgotten homes, and maybe, just maybe, inspire a few comebacks in neighborhoods yet to be imagined. Have you ever walked down a quiet street and spotted a house that looked like it belonged to another era? Maybe it had a peculiar roofline, or it wore a touch of whimsy in its woodwork or stone. You paused for just a second, wondering, who built that? And why don't we see homes like this anymore? It's easy to think that houses have always looked the way they do today. But tucked away in neighborhoods, or sometimes lost to history altogether, are homes with stories to tell, bold experiments, wild dreams, and clever solutions to everyday living. Today, we're setting out on a journey through time, peeking inside the front doors of America's most fascinating forgotten home styles. These are not just buildings, they're time capsules. Each one reflects the ambitions, hopes, and challenges of the people who built them. Some were designed to capture more sunlight, or to beat the heat before air conditioning existed. Others sprang from artistic movements, shaping cozy retreats from mass-produced sameness. Some, like the sturdy Foursquare, were practical answers to city life, while others, like the whimsical Queen Anne, were built just to delight the eye. But they all have one thing in common: at some point, they faded from view. Styles changed, new technologies emerged, and what was once cutting-edge or charming simply slipped out of fashion. So why do these homes matter? Because they're more than walls and windows, they're pieces of history. They remind us that every generation has tried to make its mark, to solve problems, to create beauty and comfort in its own way. Over the next few minutes, we'll travel from Octagon wonders to mid-century steel dreams, uncovering what made these houses so special and why, in so many cases, they disappeared. Ready to discover the homes time forgot? Let's step inside. Let's rewind to the mid-1800s, a time when the Industrial Revolution was shaking up how Americans thought about, well, just about everything, homes included. Now, imagine a house that's not square, not rectangular, but shaped like an octagon. 8 sides, all working together in unexpected harmony. This wasn't just someone's quirky idea, it was a movement. The champion of this unusual design was Orson Squire Fowler, who believed that the octagon was nature's most efficient shape. He wrote a whole book on the subject, convinced that houses with 8 sides could solve practical problems and make everyday living better. Fowler argued that octagon houses offered several big advantages. More natural light could flow in from all directions. Windows on nearly every side meant breezes could drift through the rooms, keeping things cool before the days of air conditioning. The design also promised to use building materials more efficiently, so you could actually get more living space for your money. And talk about curb appeal, these homes usually had a central cupola, almost like a crown on top. That wasn't just for show. The cupola acted like a giant chimney, pulling hot air up and out, making the house feel cooler in summer. Many Octagon houses also featured wraparound porches, shady spots perfect for a rocking chair and an evening chat with neighbors. Some even had built-in rainwater systems to collect water from every angle of the roof. Inside, the floor plans were innovative. Rooms radiated out from a central hall, making for a surprisingly efficient layout. Each space was well lit, with plenty of cross breezes thanks to those many windows. It all made sense on paper, and for a brief moment, it caught on. Octagon houses started popping up across America, from New York to Illinois to California. They made people stop and stare. But as you might guess, there was a catch. Building an octagonal home was way more complicated than the standard 4 walls and a roof. The odd shape made construction tricky and expensive. Adding furniture, or even figuring out where to put your bed, could become a geometric puzzle. Pretty soon, tastes shifted. Simplicity and function took priority over novelty. By the early 1900s, octagon homes faded from fashion, leaving only a handful as quirky, beautiful time capsules. Today, they're rare, oddballs in their neighborhoods, each one a reminder of a moment when Americans dared to dream outside the box, literally. If you've ever strolled through an old neighborhood and spotted a house that looked straight out of a fairy tale, you've probably encountered Queen and Style, the undisputed showstopper of Victorian-era architecture. These homes are all about drama and whimsy. Think turrets, towers, and wraparound porches. Roof lines that zig and zag, and facades that never seem to match from one side to the other. Every angle reveals something new and delightful. It's the architectural equivalent of a patchwork quilt. No two Queen Annes are ever quite the same. Now, this style exploded in popularity between 1880 and 1910, thanks in part to new railroads and sawmills. Suddenly, it was possible to ship ornate, pre-cut wooden trim all over the country. Builders went wild with decorative shingles, spindlework, and intricately carved brackets. The more detail, the better. One of the most iconic features? The asymmetrical facade. Forget balanced, mirror image designs. Queen and homes play with unexpected shapes, octagonal towers, projecting bays, and tall, narrow windows that catch the light just so. Some of the grandest examples even have stained glass in the windows, turning the sunlight into a kaleidoscope of colors inside. It wasn't just about looks, though. These homes were a chance for families to show off their tastes and success. The more fanciful the house, the more it stood out, and the more it reflected the personality of the people who lived there. Each detail told a story, from the weathered weather vane perched on the roof to the ornate scrollwork framing the porch. But like all trends, Queen Anne's reign didn't last forever. By the turn of the 20th century, tastes began to shift. People wanted something simpler, more classic. Colonial revival took center stage, and the wildly decorative Queen Anne fell out of favor almost overnight. Builders and homeowners swapped spindles and turrets for columns and symmetry. The era of excess was over. Still, the magic of Queen Anne hasn't disappeared completely. If you visit places like Eureka, California, you'll find masterpieces like the Carson Mansion, often called the crown jewel of Victorian architecture. These homes are living works of art, cherished reminders of a time when imagination ruled the streets. It's hard not to smile when you see one. They're playful, bold, and just a little bit rebellious. And even though they're rare today, Queen Anne houses continue to inspire dreamers and designers alike, proving that a little whimsy never goes out of style. Now, let's take a walk past the ornate, gingerbread-trimmed Victorians and see what came next, a home style that was all about practicality. Meet the American Foursquare, sometimes called the house that America built. Emerging in the late 1890s, it was a breath of simplicity after decades of fancy flourishes and unpredictable floor plans. Picture a perfectly square box. 2 sturdy stories, 4 rooms upstairs and 4 rooms down, often with a big welcoming porch out front. That's it, elegant in its straightforwardness. This was the home for a nation on the move. As cities grew, families needed space, but not extravagance. The Foursquare squeezed every inch of usefulness out of a small city lot. The boxy design meant you could have a roomy house on a narrow street, with each room bathing in natural light from large, double-hung windows. What's especially fascinating is how Foursquares took advantage of the era's latest trend, mail-order homes. You could flip through a Sears, Roebuck catalog, pick out a Foursquare, and in a few weeks, every board and nail would arrive by train, ready to be hammered together on your lot. Building a home became almost as easy as assembling furniture from a certain Swedish company today. Inside, the floor plan was refreshingly open. A central staircase anchored the layout. Living room, dining room, kitchen, and usually a parlor or study, all flowing into each other. Upstairs, 4 bedrooms made the most of the space. No more grand ballrooms or maze-like corridors. Just well-proportioned, livable rooms that made daily life easier. The Foursquare also left room for a homeowner's personality. You'd see Craftsman-style woodwork, Colonial columns, even a touch of Prairie School influence in the windows or roof lines. But no matter the details, the emphasis was always on function. Built-in cabinets, bookcases, and practical features made chores less of a hassle. This was a home style for the American middle class, a blank canvas for families chasing their own version of the good life. For many, it represented the dream of stability and self-sufficiency. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. Solid. Dependable. As the Great Depression loomed and taste shifted again, the Foursquare faded into the background. But even now, in neighborhoods across the country, these practical pioneers stand tall, reminders of a time when home meant something sturdy, simple, and entirely your own. Let's step inside a home style that feels like a warm hug, the Craftsman bungalow. These houses were never about showing off. Instead, they celebrated the simple beauty of natural materials, cozy details, and a connection to the outdoors. Born from the arts and crafts movement in the early 1900s, Craftsman bungalows were a breath of fresh air after the over-the-top Victorians. Walk through the front door and you're likely greeted by a sturdy wooden built-in bench or a bookcase, each one carved or assembled by hand. Look up, and you'll spot exposed beams stretching across the ceiling, highlighting the honest structure of the house. It's the kind of space where sunlight spills across hardwood floors and settles on stone fireplaces. Craftsman homes invited the outside in. Wide, welcoming porches made neighbors into friends. Earthy colors and stained glass windows blurred the lines between the garden and the living room. But what really set these bungalows apart was their accessibility. For the first time, the dream of a well-designed, handcrafted home wasn't just for the wealthy. Middle-class families across America could afford them. Builders used local wood, stone, and brick, materials that felt like they belonged to the land. The floor plans were smart and efficient. Open living and dining rooms, cozy bedrooms tucked to the side, and kitchens designed for real work. There was a thoughtful place for everything, whether it was a built-in hutch for your dishes or a cozy breakfast nook. And if you lived in California during the 1910s or 1920s, Craftsman bungalows were everywhere. They fit perfectly beneath leafy streets and sunny skies. They became symbols of the California dream, a home that was affordable, beautiful, and just the right size for a growing family. Magazines like the Craftsman and Pattern books spread the style across the country. Even Sears sold entire Craftsman homes in kit form, shipped by rail right to your lot, ready to assemble. But as the 1920s rolled on, tastes started to shift. People wanted new styles, bigger, flashier, different. Craftsman bungalows faded from the spotlight. Still, their influence lingers. If you've ever walked into a room with chunky woodwork, a welcoming porch, or sunlight filtering through stained glass, you've felt the spirit of a craftsman. It's a style that reminds us, home is about warmth, comfort, and the handcrafted touches that make it truly ours. Now, let's head down south, where a simple, sturdy little home took root and truly flourished, the shotgun house. Picture a narrow rectangle, sometimes no wider than a train car, just one room after the next, all lined up in a perfectly straight row. No hallways, no wasted space, just a door at the front and a door at the back. Legend says you could fire a shotgun through the front door and the blast would fly clean out the back without hitting a wall. That's where the name comes from. These homes first appeared in the South in the late 1800s and quickly became an icon of cities like New Orleans, Memphis, and Atlanta. But their roots run even deeper. Many historians trace shotgun houses back to the influence of Haitian and West African architecture. Enslaved people, free black communities, and immigrants brought their own building traditions, long, narrow homes built to maximize airflow and fit dense city lots. It's a story that speaks to resilience, adaptation, and the blending of cultures. Walking through a shotgun house feels like stepping back in time. You open the front door, and sunlight floods the parlor. Keep heading straight, and you'll pass through the living room, then a bedroom or two, and finally arrive in the kitchen at the back. Every room is connected, one after another. This layout wasn't just efficient, it was a smart response to hot southern climates. Open both doors, and you'd get a steady breeze right through the heart of the home. Ceilings were high, windows were tall, and porches, often stretching the full width of the front, became a gathering place for neighbors. Shotgun houses were built for people who needed affordable homes on small plots of land. They made urban life possible for families who worked hard and needed a space to call their own. Some were plain and sturdy, while others were dressed up with gingerbread trim, columns, or bright paint. Block after block, colorful rows of these houses formed vibrant neighborhoods. Today, you'll still find shotgun houses dotted throughout southern cities, though many have been lost or altered over time. They're a reminder of creativity born out of necessity and the power of simple, thoughtful design. It's amazing how such a straightforward home could carry so much history and character in its narrow frame. Would you live in a shotgun house? Maybe you already have, or know someone who did. Either way, the legacy of these homes continues, echoing through the streets they helped define. Now, let's step into a neighborhood where fantasy meets suburbia, the world of Tudor Revival homes. Picture a house with a steep, gabled roof, patterned brickwork, and timber beams crisscrossing the upper stories. It looks like something straight out of an English fairy tale. That's no accident. Tudor Revival design aimed to bring a sense of old-world charm across the ocean, and for a while, it absolutely worked. These homes exploded in popularity during the 1920s and 30s. At the time, America was undergoing rapid change, cities were booming, suburbs were taking shape, and people craved a taste of tradition in a quickly modernizing world. Tudor Revival houses answered that call. What set them apart? For starters, those signature half-timbered facades. The dark, exposed beams set against pale stucco or brick gave the house a storybook look you couldn't find anywhere else. Add in tall, narrow windows with diamond-shaped panes, and you've got instant medieval vibes. But these weren't castles. They were family homes, albeit with a splash of drama. The steep, sloping roofs weren't just for the looks either. In colder climates, snow slid right off, making them both beautiful and practical. Step inside, and you'd find cozy features that matched the fanciful exterior. Think massive fireplaces with arched openings, thick plaster walls, and built-in bookshelves tucked into alcoves. Every detail was meant to evoke craftsmanship. These houses felt sturdy, warm, and inviting, like they'd been standing for centuries, even if they were brand new. The allure was so strong that entire suburban developments sprang up featuring nothing but these medieval-inspired homes. For the affluent, owning a Tudor revival was a statement, an invitation to live out a little piece of European history. No wonder they were often called stockbroker Tudors, thanks to their popularity among the well-to-do in the Roaring Twenties. Over time, though, the style evolved. By the 1940s, the elaborate details began to fade. Builders started using synthetic materials to mimic real timber, and the once complex designs were pared down for efficiency. The romance lingered, but practicality won out. Today, Tudor revivals still turn heads on quiet tree-lined streets. They're reminders of when America looked to the past for inspiration, even as it raced toward the future. And for a lucky few, coming home still means stepping into a little bit of medieval magic. Let's travel back to the early 20th century, where a particular silhouette began popping up in neighborhoods, one that felt both timeless and a bit playful. I'm talking about Dutch Colonial Revival homes. If you've ever driven through the Northeast and spotted a house with a roof that looks a bit like a barn, you've seen their signature move, the gambrel roof. It's that gracefully curving roofline, almost folding in on itself, that makes these houses instantly recognizable. But it wasn't just about good looks. That gambrel roof wasn't just for show. It allowed an extra full story of living space upstairs, making these homes feel larger on the inside than you'd expect from the outside. This style was inspired by the homes of 17th century Dutch settlers, especially in places like New York and New Jersey. So, in a way, the Dutch Colonial Revival was America's nod to its own architectural roots, a little nostalgia wrapped in cedar shingles and wood siding. Picture those facades, perfectly symmetrical, with a wide central entrance, often flanked by classic columns or sidelights. Dormer windows broke up the long stretches of roof, letting in sunlight and adding a cozy charm to the upstairs rooms. And the wood siding? Often painted in soft, welcoming colors, think creamy whites, mossy greens, or a classic colonial blue. These houses feel like they're hugging the landscape, low to the ground, inviting, and absolutely at home among leafy trees and snowy winters. They weren't just for show either. Inside, rooms flowed from one to another, usually organized around a central hallway. Built-in cabinets and corner fireplaces gave them a sense of warmth and tradition. And those broad porches, perfect for a rocking chair and a glass of lemonade, were always ready to welcome friends or neighbors dropping by. From the 1900s through the 1930s, Dutch Colonial Revival homes became especially common in the Northeast. They offered a feeling of stability and nostalgia, something solid to come home to in a rapidly changing world. But as tastes shifted and new styles emerged, the gambrel roof slowly faded from the spotlight. Today, when you spot a Dutch Colonial Revival on a quiet street, it's like glimpsing a piece of living history, a reminder of the way Americans once looked back, even as they moved forward. There's something undeniably comforting about these homes. Maybe it's the familiar shape, or just the way they seem to stand quietly, watching the years go by. Either way, Dutch Colonial Revival holds a special place in the story of homes time forgot. Now, let's jump to the late 1940s, when America was brimming with optimism and a serious need for housing. Enter the Lustron Home, a marvel of post-war innovation and maybe the most futuristic house on the block. Picture this, a house where every wall, ceiling, and even the roof is made of enameled steel panels. Not just steel, but colorful, glossy metal that you could wipe clean with a sponge. In an era obsessed with new technology, Lustron promised a bold, low-maintenance future. After World War II, returning soldiers and their families needed homes fast. The Lustron Corporation stepped up with a radical idea: why not build entire houses the way we build cars? In fact, Lustron homes were literally assembled in a former aircraft factory in Ohio, then shipped out on the back of trucks, all 3,000 pieces ready for assembly like the world's largest Lego set. On the outside, Lustron homes look almost like oversized metal dollhouses, with pastel-colored panels and neat, boxy lines. Walk up to one, and you might be struck by the gentle clink of your ring against the steel siding. Inside, the futuristic theme continues. Forget squeaky wooden doors and dusty shelves. Lustron interiors are all built-in: metal cabinets, metal doors, metal vanities. Even the tub and the kitchen sink are made of that same sleek porcelain-coated steel. But the steel wasn't just for looks. It meant no painting, no termite worries, no rotting wood. You could even hang pictures with magnets. The promise was a home that would practically take care of itself, leaving more time for that mid-century dream life. Yet for all their promise, Lustron homes weren't destined to last. High production costs, tricky shipping logistics, and fierce competition from traditional builders soon spelled trouble. In just a few short years, Lustron folded. By 1950, only about 2,500 of these metal marvels had ever been built. Today, spotting a Lustron is a rare treat, a pastel flash of steel nestled in a sleepy suburb, a glimmer of what people in the 1940s thought the future would look like. Some are lovingly restored, others are quietly rusting away, patiently waiting for someone to appreciate their unique legacy. It's a fascinating chapter in American home design, proof that even the boldest solutions sometimes fade, but never quite disappear. Next up, let's step into a home style that truly defined a new era, where the future seemed just around the corner and everyday living felt like stepping into a sci-fi movie. I'm talking about the Atomic Ranch. Picture it, it's the late 1940s and the world is buzzing with optimism after the war. Families are moving to the suburbs, and the old, boxy homes of the past start to feel, well, a little old-fashioned. The Atomic Ranch bursts onto the scene, promising something totally different, a home that's open, airy, and full of light. Forget formal parlors and stuffy dining rooms. This was all about open floor plans, where the kitchen flowed straight into the living space, and everyone could be together. The lines are horizontal, the roof's low and gently sloped. And the connection to the outdoors? Unmistakable. Huge sliding glass doors opened up to patios and backyards, making barbecues and family gatherings into almost daily events. One of my favorite details is the clerestory windows, those slim bands of glass tucked right under the eaves. They let in soft, natural light, but kept prying eyes out. It was practical, but it also gave every room this fabulous, futuristic glow. Even the materials felt new and daring: concrete, glass, and steel, all blended together in a sleek, modern package. Architects like Cliff May and Joseph Eichler took these ideas and ran with them. Eichler especially, with his California developments, gave regular folks a shot at living in what felt like a custom-designed masterpiece. His homes were affordable, but rich in character. Think post-and-beam construction, radiant floor heating, and those signature glass walls that dissolved the barrier between inside and out. But the magic of the Atomic Ranch wasn't just about how it looked. It was about how it felt. These homes were designed for the way people actually lived. Kids could run from backyard to living room without a single step or railing in the way. Entertaining was a breeze, and there was a sense of lightness, both physically and emotionally. They captured the hopefulness of the space age, where every appliance promised to make life easier and every room felt ready for a celebration. For a while, atomic ranch homes were everywhere. They became the backdrop for the classic image of 1950s suburbia, lawnmowers buzzing, station wagons in the carport, and neighbors waving from across open lawns. Today, these homes are having a bit of a comeback, with people falling in love all over again with their cool lines and indoor-outdoor spirit. And when you step inside, it's easy to see why. The atomic ranch isn't just a style, it's a feeling. It's a reminder of when the future felt bright, bold, and within reach, right at ground level. Now, let's take a walk on the bold side, Brutalist homes. You might be picturing those massive, gray concrete buildings from old city centers, but brutalism wasn't just for libraries or office towers. For a brief moment, it made its way into residential design, turning the idea of the warm, cozy home completely upside down. Brutalism is all about raw materials, especially concrete left bare and honest, showing every form, line, and imperfection. It's a style that wears its heart and its structure on its sleeve. The word brutalist actually comes from the French béton brut, meaning raw concrete. And that's exactly what you get: bold, blocky shapes, geometric angles, and a sense of rugged, unpolished strength. Influenced by modernist visionaries like Le Corbusier, these homes have flat roofs, deep-set windows, and almost fortress-like walls. No frilly trim, no delicate details, just pure, unapologetic material. Some designs even incorporated natural light in dramatic ways, with skylights or strategically placed windows slicing through those thick concrete walls. In the 1950s through the 70s, brutalist homes promised a new kind of urban living. They were especially popular for public housing projects, where cost and durability mattered most. Imagine entire communities built like solid, protective shells, standing strong against time and weather. But there's a catch: what looked modern and futuristic at first often felt cold and imposing up close. Concrete doesn't exactly invite you in for a cup of tea. For some, though, brutalist homes are works of art. Their starkness is striking. Every angle makes a statement. Inside, you might find open plans, high ceilings, and sunlight pouring in just where you want it, proof that even the toughest material can create inspiring spaces. You might also notice built-in furniture, sculpted directly from concrete or heavy wood, echoing the home's solid frame. It's a style that asks you to appreciate form and function, even if it sometimes feels more like a sculpture than a living space. Still, as city skylines filled with these concrete forms, public opinion shifted. Brutalism became associated with urban decay, soulless government projects, and a lack of warmth. By the late 70s, people were craving something softer and more inviting. Many brutalist homes and buildings were demolished or covered up by friendlier facades. Yet, for those who see beauty in the bold and the bare, brutalism endures. It's a reminder that architecture can challenge us, not just comfort us. And sometimes, the most controversial homes are the ones we can't stop talking about. It's amazing how every one of these homes tells a story, isn't it? Each style captures the hopes and dreams of an era, some chasing innovation, others holding tight to old-world charm. It makes you wonder, what would our neighborhoods look like if we hadn't left some of these designs behind? Imagine a row of octagon houses, airy and sunlit, standing next to a cluster of colorful queen and beauties, all turrets and gingerbread trim. Or maybe a whole street lined with cozy Craftsman bungalows, each one unique but all inviting, with their deep porches and handcrafted details. Sometimes I think about how it would feel to live inside a Lustron home, where everything is steel and easy to clean. Or to wake up in a Tudor revival, sunlight streaming in past the old timber framing. There's something fascinating about all of them. They're not just buildings, but reflections of the people who built and lived in them. These houses were more than just shelter. They were statements. Dreams in wood, brick, and occasionally bold concrete. So now, after exploring all these lost gems, I want to know, if you could bring back just one style, which would it be? Would you choose the elegant whimsy of the Queen Anne? The sturdy simplicity of the American Foursquare? The futuristic optimism of the Atomic Ranch? Or maybe something else entirely? Share your thoughts with me down in the comments. I love hearing what captures your imagination. And if you enjoyed this trip through time, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We've got so many more stories and homes to explore together. Thanks for coming along for the journey. Until next time.